What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today's video is gonna look a little different. Now, if you're wondering what I mean by that, you're gonna have to stay till the end to find out. So, the first hand of the day, we have Jack 9 here in the straddle, and we are going to defend when our opponent raises to 10. I think this is a hand that you probably don't want to see a flop with a lot, but for a price of 6 when we're already in for 4 in the $2 ante, then I think it's fair enough. On the flop, we flop a gut shot to a straight, and he bets 9, so we're going to continue here. And then when he sizes up to 34 on the turn, we are just going to fold when we don't improve. The next hand we play here, we have Queen Jack offsuit, and we are on the button, so we love the position already. The opponent to the right of us raises to 12, and we are going to think it over for a second, and we are going to end up making the call, deciding not to opt for a raise here since we are in position, so we don't mind the sizing that we're at there, and we can figure out kind of where we stand throughout the rest of the hand. As we can see here, the opponent in the big blind is going to opt to raise to 60, and my immediate thought is this is too much. We are probably going to fold. This isn't a good enough hand, even being in position. It's just one of those middling hands that we don't want to play. But when two opponents call us before, we are just getting too good of a price to fold. So we are going to see a flop. And when the flop comes queen high, we are loving it. We don't know if we have the best queen. There's some straight draws out there, no flush draws. Maybe somebody has a set, but we love having top pair. Even with the jack kicker, it's a pretty good kicker. We could be out-kicked, but we like it. When the original pre-flop raiser raises to 64 and we get one opponent calling, we're still going to call here and proceed with caution just because we don't really know where we are at. Now, with the pot being 445 and the 9 coming in on the turn to complete the straight, our opponent really doesn't have much to do other than just jam. When he gets called behind, we think it over and we think, hey, we have a jack. We have outs to the nuts if we get a king or an 8. So we might as well as just call here with top pair and hope for the best. So we call and we see the bad news that we're behind. Our opponent to the left of us had king queen, so he had us out kicked, and the player to the right of us had 9-10 for 2 pair, and then when the board paired with the 7 on the river, the opponent to the left of us got lucky and won with queens and 7s over the 9s and 10s. And we unfortunately did not have a good enough kicker to beat that opponent, so that was a tough hand for us there. I think that if we didn't have queen jack and we had something else where we didn't have outs to the nuts with the straight being there, then we probably would have just folded because top pair obviously isn't good enough there. But with the equity that was in the pot and the sizing of everything, I think we have to call there just to try to draw out on them and get the best hand. And unfortunately, it didn't happen there. Maybe not the best play for the long term, but I think in the moment that I thought that it was a good one. And even still now, I think it's not the best play, but it's not the worst play either with how our chip stack was sized and everything like that. Then we were here and we were in the straddle, so we got to see a flop and we checked it through on the flop, me and our opponent. And then on the turn here, he decides to bet 31, and with our 7 here, we decide to call. When the river comes a jack, it brings another overcard and a flush, forward or flush come in. So if he even has one club, a 9 or a jack, or even a better 7, then we're beat. So when he bids 62 on the river, we are just going to lay it down. The very next hand, we are in the small blind with queen 10, and when our opponent to the right of us raises to 12, we opt to raise to 36 here. Again, one of those middling hands that we don't really want to see flop with, and we don't really want to play out. And since we're out of position, we choose to raise like we have been doing with that raise fold strategy. And when our opponent raises to 110, we got nothing else to do than fold. Here we are in the under the gun +1, and we have 2-6 suited here, so we decide to raise to 12, and our opponent over there is going to raise to 36. And when it folds around to us, even being out of position, I think that 36 is a fair enough price with us already having 12 in for us to at least see a flop and hope that we can flop something good. And if we do not see something good, then we can just lay it down. So we decide to go for the call here, and when the flop comes 5, ace, 5, we don't love that the board is paired, but we do have the diamond draw. We're going to check it over and flow to our opponent, and he's going to go for a smaller sizing here. He's going to bet 22 into a pot of 87. So we're thinking maybe this is just a normal C bet, and we're going to raise it up. Maybe we could get value out of an ace that he has, or maybe he will just fold here and we can take it down with our flush draw. Unfortunately, our opponent's going to think it over and he's going to call. The flush comes in on the turn and we're loving life. We're thinking he probably doesn't have a 5 with how the pre-flop action went, and maybe he even has ace-king here, or maybe he hit a pair with his king so we can squeeze out some more value. We decide to bet for 99, and again, our opponent goes into the tank, and he is going to think for a couple seconds here, and after a little bit, he's going to make a call. And then when the river pairs the board with the king, we don't love it, but we're hoping that maybe he just has an ace and we go all in. Unfortunately, he has ace-5 and had us absolutely dominated the whole way with a full house. So, hate to see that. Already down 800 into the session early, and we made 2 okay/questionable plays. The plays with Queen-Jack wasn't the very best play, and we probably should have just folded that pre-flop. That last hand, maybe we could have folded pre-flop as well, but I think for 36, when we already had 12 in, it was a reasonable sizing to call. And then it's just unfortunate that he has ace-5 there. I don't think that he's going to have that at a high frequency there. So I think our play in that hand was pretty decent. But unfortunately, we get unlucky there. And here we are in the small blind. Our opponent raised to 10, and we're going to opt to raise it up to 30 since we are out of position. When the flop comes 6-6-10, we're just going to c-bet here. And then when he calls pretty quickly, we don't really know where we stand. So we're going to go for a smaller sizing on the turn to see if he raises, see if he has really anything too good, and he calls quick. When the jack comes on the river, we have top pair with a good kicker. There's no real draws that get there, and we just hope that he doesn't have a 6. Maybe he calls with a 10 here, and that's exactly what we're hoping for. So we go for a sizing of 110, and he's going to think it over, and he's going to call. He had a flush draw, and he had bottom pair with the 3. That was kind of a strange play from him, but maybe he thought I was just firing off the third barrel of a bluff. And if that jack didn't come in, he would have been right. But I don't know if I would have fired it off, and that's why I went for a smaller sizing on the turn. The next hand we play here, we have ace-4 suited, and we got 2 callers pre-flop. When the ace comes on the flop, we want to bet. Even though we have a weak ace, we still want to get some money in there. Maybe our opponent has a flush draw. Maybe he has a 10. Maybe he has some piece of that board that we can win with. When the flush comes in on the turn, we don't exactly love it, especially having a weak ace, so we check, and we're going to the river to see what our opponent does. A 5 comes in. It's a pretty decent card for us. We're still a little bit of afraid of the flush, but when our opponent thinks for so long and chooses a sizing of 96, that's over a pot-sized bet, so we decide to just snap him off, even with our ace being weak, and we're going to see the good news that he was just bluffing there. I think when he thought for so long and he chose to overbet the pot instead of betting for some value like you normally would with a flush there, we just didn't believe him. And so we saw the good news and we built our stack back up after being down a little bit earlier. And here we are in the button with ace-queen. We're going to raise it to 30 pre-flop and get 1 caller. We're going to flop the world pretty much. We have ace-queen 7 here. We're going to bet for 38, and our opponent is going to fold. He only had a stack of 50, so really not much more value we could have got there anyway, so we'll take that pot. And we are almost back up our 400 that we just lost from the 6-2 hand, but we're still down that 400 from the queen-jack hand. Here we are in late position with pocket deuces. We're going to raise it up to 12, and we're going to get 2 callers. We're in position here. We like it. When the board comes 4-4-9 and this opponent donk bets, it's a little confusing, but we're going to proceed with caution. Maybe he has a 4, but if we hit a deuce, then we could win the pot. When the ace comes in on the turn and he checks it, he slows down. Maybe he has a 9, and we can bet it and represent that and get him to fold. And that's exactly what happens here. After thinking for a second, he's just going to lay it down and decide that his hand's not good enough, especially after we called in the flop, and we bet the turn. So not the way that hand usually would go, but we'll take it because the pot's coming our way. Here we are again in late position. We got ace-deuce offsuit, and we are going to raise it up to 12 here, hoping that we can get through and just play against the blinds in the straddle, so we are in position. Everybody's going to fold, and we don't even have to play, and we're going to scoop that one up. So we love to see that. Here we are in the straddle, and we have ace-7 suited. We got clubs this time. The opponent to the left of us is going to raise to 8, and these opponents are going to think it over for a second, and he is going to raise it up to 44. I think being in between these two players is a decent spot, so we're going to call the 44, and this opponent's going to think it over for a second, and he is going to call as well. we're going to go to a flop of Jack 8-6. Absolutely not what we were looking for there. And that opponent's going to check. We're going to check it. And this guy's going to think it over. And he is going to opt for a bet here. He chooses an interesting sizing of 47. It's kind of a smaller size, more like a value bet. Maybe he's just trying to figure out where he is at. But when this player calls, there's nothing we can do other than just fold. We don't have any good equity continuing on in this hand. So we are just going to lay it down and live to play another hand. The next hand that we decide to play is we are in the big blind with ace-king offsuit. We love this hand. It's a good hand, one of the best hands that you're going to start with, and we are going to see what happens. So our opponent's going to raise to 12, and the small blind is going to call. Being in the big blind here and having that player being on the button, we're going to opt to raise to 48 here. It's 4 times his raise, and we're fine if they just fold, and we'll scoop up that dead money. And then if they want to play it out, then that's okay as well because we have a good hand, and that is what's going to happen here. The small blind calls, so we are in position, which is great. That's what we wanted. The flop's going to come ace high, and with ace king, we are going to bet, and he is just going to lay it down. So we get a decent pot there to build us back up. Unfortunately, on this session, we are going to lose $336.56. We had to go to work, and here's what I was talking about at the start of the video. This video is going to look a little different because when I got out of work and I decided to play again to try to win that money back, they updated the app, and the scenery has changed. So we start this new session off with ace-jack of diamonds, and we raise it up to 12. Our opponent to the left of us is going to raise it to 40 here, and we are going to wait for it to get around to us. And when it does, we are going to decide to re-raise it, being out of position with this premium hand that's suited. And lucky for us, our opponent just folds. Again, I'm happy with playing that out there. Obviously, 120 pre-flop is a lot with these stakes, but we have a really good hand, and we just want to get him out of there if he has even just ace-queen offsuit or something like that, maybe a hand that's better or a pocket pair that's kind of low. So that was good play there. And here we are on the button with 3-6. We decide to play it because we are on the button, and hopefully we could make some magic. Obviously, as we see here, nothing's really going on. We're not going to stab at it. The pot's only 35, not really worth losing some more money over. So we just check it on the river here, and our opponent is going to have king high for the win. And that's okay because we swung and we missed. We didn't put too much in the pot, and we didn't bloat the pot trying to bluff it off and win there. Now, here we are. We have ace-3 offsuit. We are in good position, so we are going to raise it to 12. And when the button folds, we like it because even if we're going to proceed, we're going to play in position. And that's exactly what happens. Our board is going to come 4-3 jack, and our opponent is just going to fold. Now, this is a strange play. There was no bet that he faced, and he's just going to fold. So we'll take the free money, but that was a pretty odd play, especially from somebody who has $1,200 on the table. That means that they've probably been playing for a little while, and they've been playing good because they've 3x'd their money at least. So that was interesting. I don't really know what they were doing there, but we'll take the free money nonetheless. And here we are in late position again. We have ace-king offsuit this time. We're going to raise to 12, and our opponent to the left of us immediately decides to raise to 36. So this is an interesting spot. We have good position, but not the best position. Another player in between us is going to call the 36 as well. And this is an interesting spot now. So I decided to go for the raise here because we do have a premium hand, and we just want to see where we're at against these players. Maybe both of them fold and we scoop that dead money. Maybe we get a call, maybe we get a raise, and we can proceed as necessary. So this opponent's going to buy a time bank card to have some more time to think. And after thinking for a little bit, he's going to go all in. The player in between us folds immediately, and we call. We find out we have the same hand here, so we are going to chop up that other player and the blind's money, and just nothing to worry about there. So a good play there by calling our opponent. Maybe he could have had a pocket pair, and that would have been unfortunate as it bricked out and there was no ace or king. But we get very lucky there, and we chop it up. So here we are with queens. We're going to raise it up to 12. We're in under the gun +2, and we get one caller there, and this opponent's going to think, and he's going to call as well. Now, this player is going to think for a second, and they're going to decide that 12 is not enough, and they want more. So they raise it up, and we are licking our chops with queens over here. So we are obviously going to re-raise because we do not want to see a flop, really. We just want to get this over with. If the chips are going to go in now, we got the third best hand, so let's raise it up to 256. This opponent's going to decide, hey, that's not enough again, and go all in. We snap call. We see the bad news. They got aces, but right in the window, we hit a queen. Pow! And we are going to double up just like that. So very unfortunate there for him as he had aces, but hey, I'd play it the exact same way 10 out of 10 times with queens there. If he has a better hand, he has a better hand, and he had a better hand there, and we just outdrew him. So we'll take being lucky over being good every time. I think if you talk to any gambler ever, they'll pretty much say that. You can only play so good, but at the end of the day, poker is luck, and that's why you have to have a big bankroll to manage it, because you're going to get unlucky, you're going to get lucky, things happen, money shifts, and that's something you got to understand here. So anyways, moving on, we got Delta in here, and we just check it out. So we are going to finish that session up $502.20, and on the day, we profited $165.64. So thanks for watching, guys. Come back again tomorrow for another video, and we will see ya.